What's up, guys? I'm Gary Cook. This is Divas Dive, and this is our new weekly recap show. Today we are covering NXT and NXT UK with the added bonus of Worlds Collide, since that was an all-female show this week. Before we get going, be sure to hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button, so that you can stay up to date on all the latest episodes coming out. And it helps the channel out and helps support the Divas Unleashed movement of growing, expanding, and getting more women's wrestling content out to everybody out there that really enjoys just talking women's wrestling. So go ahead and do that. And once you're done, let's jump right in. We had some awesome matches. Oh, I wish Raw and SmackDown were as good as these three shows were. So NXT and NXT UK each only had one women's show, but Worlds Collide definitely made up for that in spades with the 4 matches they had. So we're going to do this in the order I watched, which is how my reactions were kind of tempered. So some of this stuff will make sense, which is why when we get to the UK, you'll understand why some of the things I'm going to say are what my feelings were, was because I watched it out of order. Just due to, I can't always catch NXT UK live because of the time difference and the day job. So I tend to watch that after regular NXT airs. But tonight we had Worlds Collide in the middle, so I wanted to watch that live while we were live tweeting everything. So I did that first and then jumped into NXT UK afterwards. And that was a mistake. I definitely should have watched NXT UK first and then Worlds Collide. But we'll talk about that later in the show. So we got to start off with a fantastic match on NXT. We got Candice LeRae and Kacy Catanzaro versus Aaliyah and Vanessa Bourne. Candice is amazing, and she deserves to be pushed so much more than she's being pushed. She is definitely the best female talent on the NXT roster, and probably one of the top talents in the entire company for the WWE. Kacy Catanzaro is getting better every time you see her. She's very athletic, very exciting to watch. She does crazy stuff in the ring, and you can't help but enjoy what she's doing. Aaliyah and Vanessa Bourne, I'm not as big on. I hate them individually when they do singles matches. I don't think they work well. As a unit, they're starting to gel and come together. I think there's definitely a future for them as a tag team. I wouldn't go as far as to say they'd ever be in tag team title contention. But they definitely will get further, I think, in wrestling together than they ever will apart. They do have good chemistry. Their double team moves are starting to come together. And you're starting to get that ebb and flow with them in the ring that you expect from a tag team. I would like them to get an actual tag team name going. An actual entrance and song that is just for their tag team. Because I feel like at times that really cements a tag team as being a tag team versus just feeling like it's two women that are always teaming together. They pretty much are confirmed as a tag team. They've done very few things separate over the past few months. They're pretty much always in tag team action now. So I would like to see them actually come together and be a tag team versus this kind of halfway committed, halfway not committed. I think they need to just go full bore in and commit to being a tag team at this point. And I think they'd get a lot farther than they're currently getting. But that's just my 2 cents. This match was great. Kacy Catanzaro, she is the queen of babyfaces. I mean, she plays the babyface so well. And given her small stature, only adds to the you just want to cheer her on and root for her when she's getting beat down. Vanessa Bourne and Aaliyah played the heels well, isolated her, and just worked her over for a good chunk of the match. Then Candice gets the hot tag, comes in, clears house, and eventually gets the pinfall to give their team the win. It was a short match, but it was very good. It didn't expose any of the weaknesses of any of the women in the match. It played to all their strengths. They all got to shine in their individual ways with Aaliyah and Vanessa getting to shine as the heels with their brutality, their viciousness, their mocking and taunting of Casey as they were just woman handling her around the ring. It played to Casey's strength of being that babyface, getting to get in some of her high spots that's going to get the crowd behind her and popping. Then the hot tag for Candice to come in to the cheers of everybody as she finally gets to clean house and make the heels pay for what they've been doing to her tag team partner the whole time. Solid match through and through. Best women's tag team wrestling we've seen all week. Only women's tag team wrestling we've seen all week, actually, now that I think about it, because they didn't do any tag teams on the main roster. They just had the tag teams and singles matches. So, it was easily the best, without any competition. But I have heard some opinions that Candice and Casey Catanzaro should be a tag team together. I can see that, but I don't think that's the best pairing in NXT. I'd like to see Candice go off and be a single star because that's the biggest need, because right now you have Shayna, you have Io, and that's about it in the title picture. Mia Yim is starting to come back in, as we saw in her interview tonight on the NXT show, but there's not really anybody else there. I think adding Candice in there would really bolster and strengthen that women's tag division for the belt. And I think Casey, from what I've seen, her tagging with Lacey Lane works really well. They have good chemistry. They have very similar styles. They're both good at playing the faces. They both can fly around the ring. I'd really like to see Casey and Lacey kind of really join forces, and I think that would help both of them, because I don't see either one of them in the current crop of women being a standout single star. I think Casey has a better chance of that, just given the American Ninja background and all the hype that comes behind her with that. But I feel like her and Lacey could really take off as a tag team, and that's something that's desperately needed in the WWE, is a face tag team that the crowd can get behind. Because on the main roster, you have the Iconics, who are heel, you have Fire and Desire, who are heel, Divas of Doom kind of play tweener roles when they're around, the Riot Squad, if they're still a thing, which it looks like from the Shield's Last Stand, they're keeping Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan together, potentially, tend to be more on the heel side of things. Your only real face team is Asuka and Kairi Sane, but I'm not even sure I would count them as a full-blown, full-time tag team at this point. I feel like they're kind of just being positioned as Paige's pawns against her former Absolution stablemates, until we see actual tag team work from them and a more cohesive idea behind why they're a team. I don't think they're going to be a long-term part of the tag team division. So there's a big gap for a really solid face tag team, especially since Boss 'n' Hug is broken up and no more. And I don't see that coming back, because I don't think Sasha's coming back. And I think it's the best thing Sasha can do is not come back. When Nia Jax comes back, her and Tamina are definitely heels. So there's a big gap for a face team. And even coming up from NXT, Vanessa Borne and LA, the other women's tag team, are definitely heel and not going to work as faces. Because they're a whole higher than everybody else, bougie. That's just not going to work as a face team. Look at the problem Sasha had trying to be the legit boss as a face. It just never worked. So those girls definitely need to stay on the heel side of things. So I feel like that really leaves a great spot for Casey and Lacey. Yeah, Lacey Lane to become a strong face team that people can get behind and really enjoy. So then when this show came off the air, we jumped into Worlds Collide. I feel like this card, it was stacked. You had Candice LeRae versus Kaylee Ray. You had Piper Niven versus Lena Vega. You had Sonya Deville versus Io Shirai. And then you had a triple threat between Toni Storm, Nikki Cross, and Bianca Belair. Let me start off by saying I would flip-flop the main event and the opening match. Candice LeRae and Kaylee Ray, by far the best match on this entire card. They did amazing That is a must-see match for women's wrestling in general this year. They worked really well together. They told a story. There was great psychology. It was back and forth. The crowd was really starting to get into it. It's definitely a match that needs to be watched. Kelly Ray's heel work is top-notch. Candice LeRae's face work, top-notch. There's high points. There's great submission work. It was the match of the night. If you watch Worlds Collide and you don't have time to watch everything, just watch that opening match. It is phenomenal. It highlights all of their strengths in ways that have not been shown on WWE TV yet, and just shows you why the two of them are where they are, and why they are by far two of the top talents in women's wrestling that are currently being underused completely by the WWE. Phenomenal match, no complaints at all. The next match I was really skeptical going into. Piper Niven versus Zelina Vega. On paper, I was like, ugh. The only real exposure I've had to Zelina Vega has been her main roster run and a little bit in NXT, but she's never struck me as a top-tier women's talent on how she's been presented. She's always kind of been more of the valet that can actually wrestle, kind of like Lana with ring talent, but a valet first, a wrestler second. And Piper Niven is just, she's amazing. I mean, she's a beast in that ring. Piper Niven, one of the best big women in the world. She can go, how do I just word this? She can go very fast-paced matches and hang there. She can go just straight hoss fighting and just use her power to overdo you. So I wasn't quite sure how this was going to work out when you have somebody as dynamic as Piper and somebody that, for the most part, has been presented as very one-dimensional as Zelina Vega is. But man, did Zelina Vega surprise me. This was a great match. Great psychology to it, great storytelling. You could see Zelina Vega had a game plan that she was going to stick to on trying to get Piper Niven to not have her kind of match, but fight the match that Zelina wanted. And it actually turned out to be a really good match. I don't know if that's because Piper's so good that she could bring Zelina to the next level, or if this is what Zelina can actually do when she's not shackled by WWE on the main roster on what she's allowed to do. I would love to see more matches from Zelina Vega where she kind of has the shackles taken off and gets to run free like this, to really see where she could fall into the mix of women in the WWE. But this was an amazing showing from her. A great story of the match. Piper did pick the win up, which was to be expected just because Piper's just so good. There's no overcoming that, and they're building up to be a monster to fight Rhea Ripley, so you can't have her looking weak as you're building that story at the same time as the bully versus the bully killer kind of feel they're going for. But Zelina Vega impressed the heck out of me in this one. It was, man, she worked her butt off and she earned my respect in this match. This was a 2 thumbs up, great match. It was not to the same caliber as the first match where you had those 2 top tier women, but Zelina Vega definitely showed she's more than just a pretty face that manages Andrade, that she belongs in the ring and can do a whole lot more than they're allowing her to do. And I would be curious to see the WWE allow her to do a bit more, because she could be an asset if she can constantly put out matches like this. She could be a strong upper middle card wrestler to kind of help progress stories, help progress and get women over that they're trying to push to that main event stature, while she is doing her valet duty, advocate valet, whatever she calls herself, duties for Andrade at the same time. Really good match. Sonya Deville and Io. This match I really enjoyed, but I noticed when we were live tweeting it, a lot of people are very disappointed in it. But I think that's because they went in expecting just a spot fest, with Io getting in a ton of high-flying stuff and just being all over the place. But what we got instead was a really good look at what Sonya Deville could be if she was allowed to develop in the ring. We saw a lot of great ring psychology, great mat work, a very tactician style of wrestling that we haven't seen from Sonya on the main roster, where she knew Io is the fast-paced high flyer, and that's not the kind of match that Sonya thrives in. So she was very methodical in her grounding and pounding and submission work and mat work, and forcing Io to wrestle the type of match that is Sonya's style, not Io's style. So I thought it was great storytelling. I was fully invested and fully enjoying watching Sonya stick to this. She has a plan, she's sticking to the plan, and when the plan went awry, she didn't just try to then abandon it, she worked it back into the style of the match that she wanted to work against Io. And I think what a lot of people miss is just how good Io is, and how good of a veteran she actually is in that ring. In a lot of times when you have those high flyer, high octane type people in the ring, they don't mesh well with the more methodical, mat work driven wrestler kind of tactical matches that Sonya was working here. But Aya was so good at adjusting her style to who she's in the ring with that she can make anybody shine. And I'm really excited to see what her and Shayna do on NXT after this match, in a one-on-one setting, because this was kind of like a sneak peek almost of what that match will probably play out like as far as the psychology of it will go. It was a great story told. It was a great look at Sonya in a way that we've not been shown before. So I was 2 thumbs up, all on board for that. And I thought it was very well done. Definitely want to see more of this side of Sonya. And I would love to see her bring that to the tag team of Fire and Desire, that they're back to focusing on the main roster, where Mandy is kind of the flashy show-off, and Sonya is just that pit bull bulldog that when she's in there, she is just going to drag you to the mat and just beat the snot out of you, and then tag back in Mandy, who's going to finesse her way through it and just look good as she cleans up the scraps kind of thing. I think it would be a really good look for the tag team, and this was a really good look for Sonya, just showing how good she is and how she can hang with some of the top talent in the world, in Io Shirai in this match. Great match. Would watch again. Probably will watch again, because it was very enjoyable. It was probably my second favorite match on the night after that opening bout, because it just told a great story. Now, the main event. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. The bar was set so high by the previous 3 matches that this match had to knock it out of the water, but I don't think it ever quite got up high enough to really feel like the best match of the night. I think had they removed Bianca Belair, Toni Storm and Nikki Cross could have gotten there. And not to take anything away from Bianca Belair, but I think she's still too green to compete on a card this stacked and be in the main event. She's a good worker. She's got a great character, great personality. I'm personally not a big fan of her because she just annoys me to no end with her EST and undefeated stuff. It's just, all right, I get it. You're crazy. You think you're undefeated even though you've lost so many matches. Fine. I don't see the appeal of that gimmick, but a lot of people are behind it. She plays it well, so no faults there. But I feel like she's still very limited in her moveset compared to a Nikki Cross and a Toni Storm, that at times they kind of had to slow their work rate down to not pull too far ahead of her in the match. And I think it showed because this was not a typical Nikki Cross match and not a typical Toni Storm match. It was a much slower paced match. It lacked some of the chaotic nature of a triple threat at times that makes them so great. And I felt like both Nikki and Toni were working a much slower style to keep the match looking competitive instead of just running circles around her the whole time, which they both can easily do in the ring because they're just both they're on another level that Bianca Belair has not hit yet. And I felt like maybe that was what held the match back. Like I said, I enjoyed the match. It was forgettable. Like, none of the spots really stand out to me. There was nothing that really made me sit back and go, wow, this is a great UK women's title match. There were some nice spots here and there that got me to pop last night when I was watching it. But looking back, I'm just like, I don't really remember anything about this match. Nothing stood out. I know it happened. I just remember kind of going, okay, that was a good match. And that's all it was. It was just a good match. I would highly recommend the other 3 matches over this match. I mean, because the other 3, they were just so standout, whether it was just the amazing work of Candice and Kaylee Ray, or just how shocked I was at how good Zelina Vega is, or the great story and psychology and tactics of Sonya versus Io. That this match it didn't have anything special. It was just a paint-by-the-numbers triple threat match where nothing really stood out in the end. So, take it for what you will. Let me know what you think about that match. I'm curious for feedback on it. I might just have been too hyped coming off the previous 3 matches that there was no way for this match to live up to it. Or maybe you see what I see and you agree that this match just was the weakest of the 4 matches on Worlds Collide. But that's my thoughts on World Collide. After that, we jumped into NXT UK. Toni Storm came out, let everybody know that she's going to be the champion for a long time to come, and it's Toni time, and nobody's changing that. Kaylee Ray came out for her match. They kind of had a stare down and exchanged looks. It was a solid promo. The typical, I'm the champion, nobody's going to touch me type promo that we've heard from Toni in the past. She hyped up a few of the new additions to women's roster about how great the depth of the women's roster is. You could tell she got excited talking about Piper Niven. If you listen to her vocal inflection, she just got excited about it. And I mean, I would love to see a Piper versus Toni match. That would be a thing of beauty. I am on board and 100% there for that. But the only women's match in this match was Kaylee Ray versus Xia Li. And this is what I'm saying is the Kaylee Ray and Candice LeRae match I had just watched before this was so good that this match just didn't live up to that. It was a solid match. Kaylee Ray picks up the win. Her heel work is great throughout the match and kind of her taunting, her bulldog-like approach to breaking people down. Xia Li had some great strikes in it, and definitely showed off her skill set, but the match never quite peaked like the Candice and Kaylee Ray did, so it was a bit of a low note to end the night on, but still a good match. I mean, if you watch it in the order that the shows actually aired, I think this would be a much more enjoyable match. So if you watch the UK match first, then did NXT, then did Worlds Collide, I think the build would be a lot better, and I would have appreciated this match more. But coming from such a 4 to 5 star match with Candice to a solid typical NXT UK match was just a bit of a downgrade from what I had been watching. But it's a solid match. No complaints. I enjoyed it. They worked well together. Xia Li's great in the ring. Kaylee Ray is one of the best and one of my favorites for a long time. So, I mean, I enjoyed it top to bottom. Great night of women's wrestling. There weren't really any losers on any of these shows as far as it goes. Every match was solid in its own right. The weakest points to me were the main event of Worlds Collide and the Kaylee Ray Xia Li match. But the latter, as I said, I think that's just more of the order in which I watched it in, more than the actual match itself. But yeah, so that was my take on the NXT, NXT UK, and Worlds Collide. Be sure to hit like, be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of the updates, thoughts, opinions, rumors going on in the world of women's wrestling. I'm Gary Cook, and this has been Divas Dive.